Hi, it's Little Lisa. So I am going to show you how to make kale chips. I tried to do this once before and our audio was not good. So we're trying take two. So I have some kale prepped here already, but I'm going to show you what I do. So these are some smaller leaves from my garden. I just washed them off, patted them dry, and then all I do is cut the main rib out because if you dry that, it's going to be like trying to eat a wood stick. So I just cut that out and I put it in a bowl for my compost bin, and then I just take the leaf without that and tear it into chunks. And they can be really any size you want, but they do shrink down when you dehydrate them. So the bigger ones are just fine. I just kind of, and if I tear it and there feels like there's like a really coarse stalk, I sometimes rip that out because they do get harder to chew when they dehydrate. But some of them are soft enough, it's not a big deal. And then I just throw the pieces in the bowl. When I have, that one's probably a little bit too big, so I'll cut it in half. And I just kind of tear it into pieces. And then I do that with all the kale, and you can use any type of kale. This is the Red Russian, but I have a whole bunch of the what they call dinosaur kale. Kale too, and that works just as well. The only thing with that is you kind of have to massage it a little bit more to get it to take on the oil mixture. It's a little bit like the texture of it doesn't absorb the oil as well. So anyways, I'm just gonna finish these last couple of leaves, and then this is one of the easiest things to make, and even my son, who will not touch kale in any other format, gets very excited when I make these and will eat a whole container of them. And my son, who loves kale, loves these too. They're a great snack and healthy. So we're just gonna tear these into the chunks. And I always put it in a bowl bigger than the amount of the material because you need to be able to toss it and massage it, and you don't want it to be really, really messy. All right, so now I've got my bowl here. I'm gonna get rid of my knife. Okay, so I've got, like, this bowl is probably about 3/4 of the way full, which is perfect. I'm going to put on gloves to do this part just because I don't want to have to wash my hands 15 times to get the oil off. So normally I just do it with my bare hands, which is great, but I'm not going to do that today. Okay, so now I don't actually measure because I'm that kind of cook, but the recipes, if you look, say 2 to 3 tablespoons for a large bunch of kale. This is probably more of what I would consider a bunch and a half of kale. So I'm probably just going to put maybe like around a 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit less. I kind of just do it by eye because I kind of know like what it needs. Yeah, so probably about 3 to 4 tablespoons. 4 tablespoons is a 1/4 cup, so I think that should be good. And then I add my sea salt. I use Celtic sea salt. You can use any good quality sea salt. I also sometimes use Redmond's real salt. And I don't really measure, but it's probably about half of a teaspoon to a teaspoon. That's probably good. Okay, and then I just, probably not good to have bracelets on today, massage the kale with my hands. So you just want to kind of keep tossing it so it's all coated in the oil and the salt. And the salt will help draw the water out of the kale and allow the oil to penetrate better, and it will help soften. So you want it to end up all glossy coated and softened. And I probably could have used a little bit less oil even, but this is fine. And you just keep massaging it till it's nice and softened, a little bit almost like wilty looking. So I just keep doing it until I feel it's ready and it's all nicely coated really well. And then once this part's done, it doesn't take long, is when, this is probably a little bit too much oil for this amount of material, but it's okay. So then I like to add the seasonings at this point. You could add them with the salt and massage it all together, which is fine. I find I get better coating on the spices that I want if I do it after I've done the salt and the oil. So I'm going to have to take this off and just use one hand for this. I like a little bit of cayenne. If you don't like any heat, you can leave it off. So I'm just putting a tad bit of cayenne, a little sprinkle. And then I like garlic powder and chili powder. You could add some nutritional yeast. It'll give it a little bit of a cheesy flavor. I've done that before. I've done a chili lime. And I just do it by, like, that looks like a good amount. It's really up to you. Quarter teaspoon, half a teaspoon, teaspoon, whatever you want. Since I'm mixing things, I'm doing a little bit less of each. And then I like the chili powder flavor, so I'm putting a bunch of that. Now, then I usually, after I mix it up, I kind of taste it. If it doesn't seem salty enough, I can add a little more salt. But you can also, once it's dehydrated, because it sometimes changes the flavor a little bit, if it tastes like it's not seasoned enough or not salty enough once it's dehydrated, you can just shake some of the seasoning on after it's dehydrated. It won't stick quite as well, but it'll still be delicious. So I've done that before too, and it works. So then you just mix the spices in so it's all well coated. And you can kind of look and see if it looks like not all of them have spice blend on it. You can add a little bit more. I might add a little more on this part. And I've used, had like a chili, lime, habanero type local spice company made like a blend that I bought one time. So instead of the cayenne, I just added some of that, and those are really good too. So you can really add whatever your favorite spices are to season them. Or you can just use plain salt. I mean, just salt would be good. Salt, pepper, whatever you like. All right, so then I take one of my dehydrator sheets. And I just have the little plastic mesh on mine. It's an Excalibur. And I lay out, I usually just take a stack, put it on the tray, move the bowl out of my way, and then I just kind of lay these out. And you want them to be in a flat, as flattish as you can, not touching each other basically, with some airflow around them. Single layer. So I just kind of lay them out. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just more about giving them the opportunity to dry without sticking together as much. And they will shrink down as they do, so you can put them pretty close together, just you don't generally want them touching, because the part that is like underneath one part of another leaf will not dry as well. So I just sort of make a pile, peel them out, and just kind of move it till it's in the right spot. And sometimes it's like a puzzle, and I go, oh, that piece will fit right here, and so I move it. But it's just a matter, and if I find like a little piece of it that's not got oil, I just kind of spread it around. If I need more to fill the tray, I just grab some more. So then I just fill however many trays my bowl of stuff fills, and then I turn it on to my dehydrator on. And you can do it a couple of different ways. You can do it at a higher temperature so that it doesn't take as long if you need them quickly, or you don't want to wait up for it to finish. You could do it at, like, say, like 135 to 145 temperature wise. And then it probably only would take maybe 4 or so hours, 3 to 4 hours, something like that. Approximately. Or the way I do it, I kind of like to keep it more of a living food. So I do it around like 105 to 115, 110, somewhere in that range. Mine has like a temperature gauge on my Excalibur. So I do that, and then I let it go, like, I usually start checking it around 5 to 6 hours, but sometimes like I've let it go overnight, so it's more like 8 to 9 hours. I mean, it's been fine, but then it kind of, I feel, preserves more of the nutrients if you do it at the lower temp. And then I just stick my trays in and then just keep filling. So that's all there is to it. I just plug my dehydrator in. My dehydrator sits on a separate counter, so I usually just have it always plugged in. So I always have herbs or something going, fruit, during this time of year. summer. So anyways, I'm going to fill my sheets up and then I will show you the finished product because I have some that I made the other day already ready to go. You want to make sure the leaves are pieces are fully opened when you lay them out. Like you don't want them curled on top of itself because then it won't dry right. And these will, I mean, I don't really know because my family eats them so quick, but I'd say they'd last at least a couple of months, like in a jar once they're dry. They're not the type of thing, if you wanted to preserve, like dehydrate kale just to keep, like to throw into stews and soups and stuff in the winter, you could dehydrate them without the oil and seasoning on it, and then they would probably last for years. But because these have oil and the oil, even though it's been dehydrated, can still go rancid, I would say a couple of months at room temperature once they're done. They don't last more than a week, if that, at my house because my kids mow on them. I made like a huge double batch. I think I filled like 5 trays or 6 trays. I think it was 6 trays in my Excalibur. With the batch I made, I actually had to, actually it was more than that because I did a whole dehydrator until it was like 12 trays. Because I did the whole 9 trays and then I still had more and had to do another one overnight. So I did that. I have like, it filled 2 quart jars plus it filled a big food bowl and another like partial container. All those are gone. All I have is the jars left that aren't even full. They ate tons of them in the last few days. Sometimes I think it's fun to see what shapes the pieces of kale are. Like this one kind of looks like a state of, I don't know, maybe Colorado if you turn it on its side. This one could be the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So this was the last tray. It wasn't quite full, but pretty full. So that is 7 trays of kale chips. So I just put the lid on and I turn it on. Okay, come on, lid. There we go. So the lid's on, and then I just turn mine. I don't have it plugged. Oh, it is plugged in. So I just turn it on to about 110. And let it go. All right, I'm going to turn it off because I'm going to move it back to where I normally keep it. So this is when they're finished. I'm going to grab a little dish. Actually, I'll just throw them in here. So as you can see, they're nice and crispy. They break apart. Crunchy, delicious, nice and salty. You can taste the spices. So, you know, they shrink down. I mean, this was like a big piece of kale, and you know, it's like that size, perfect chip size. So, I just store them either in like a glass dish with a lid, or I put them a lot of times carefully. I don't pack them in to the jars. And just I have these plastic lids that have like a little ring, silicone seal, so they keep them from getting any moisture in there. And we just eat them, and they're a great snack. They're delicious, crunchy. They give you that nice, crunchy, salty chip satisfaction, but they're healthy. And you know what's in them. So that's all there is to it, to making kale chips. And you can, you know, it's a great way to use up kale because I know I have like 3 kale plants in one bed and they're ginormous. I mean, I could pick all 3 of those and probably make a full thing of kale chips as well as saute a bunch for dinner or make a salad. I mean, I love using kale different ways, but this is one of our favorites. And it helps preserve them. So anyway, that's all there is to making kale chips, and I hope you enjoy them.